Greetings, cultivators from around the world. Jordan River here, back with more GrowCast. It's for the plants, everybody. Today, Queen of the Sun is back. That's right, Queen of the Sun is a great friend of the show. Today, we're talking about all sorts of wonderful topics that have to do with winter approaching. Overwintering, pests during winter, all sorts of great topics that we're going to dive deep into. I know you're going to love it. Stay tuned for the travel vlog. Maybe it's launched on our YouTube page. I'm not sure. The members got early access to view that, but so much fun. Loved going out to NorCal, visiting Queen of the Sun and all the members out there. Thank you to everybody who showed up, and stay tuned so we can come to a town near you and you'll be alerted. Come and meet the team. I think the best way to do that is growcastpodcast.com/list. Get on the green list. That way you'll stay up to date to all of our travels. But yeah, oh man, it's so much fun just traveling and meeting growers and doling out prizes, doing meetups, smoking lots of buds. Good times, good times. Before we get into it with Queen of the Sun, though, Rimrock Analytical, rimrockanalytical.com, code GrowCast gets you free shipping on your gender identification test and more. I'm here to tell you to stop wasting time sexing your plants. We all love a good feminized seed, but it's a limited gene pool. You want some of those regs. They got that special strain that you're after that's just not feminized. But you don't want to waste all that soil and nutrient and time growing out a plant just to discover it's a male and kill it. Well, order some Rimrock sex tests, rimrockanalytical.com, code GrowCast, and you can take a sex test when the plant develops its first true set of leaves, snip one of the cots, mail it off in the prepaid shipping envelope or box, and bing, bang, boom, you'll have your sex test back lickety-split from Rimrock, and you can cull those males. Just cull them out. Don't waste any time sexing with Rimrock. Please use code GrowCast for free shipping and to support this show. DM us a screenshot of any codes you use to be entered to win free seeds each and every month. All right, everybody, Queen of the Sun, here we go. Thank you for listening and enjoy the program. Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to GrowCast. I am your host, Jordan River. Thank you again for tuning in today. Before we get started, as always, I urge you to share the show. Those growmies who spread the show are the greatest growmies of all. I appreciate you guys telling a friend, telling a grower, and hit subscribe so you catch every single episode. Make sure to check out our membership. You can find that at growcastpodcast.com/membership. It's the greatest in cannabis cultivation. And you'll find tons of bonus info and content there, along with today's guest, who we know and love and has her own powerful Patreon full of resources. So go and check it out, everybody. Today's guest, of course, being Queen of the Sun. What's up, Queen of the Sun? How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm so happy to be back. It's been a little bit of a hiatus for me.
Yeah, no kidding.
Haven't been on since July.
Been too long. This one-a-week schedule has spaced us out here, but we're so happy that you were able to join us on the main podcast. Again, available on GrowCast TV. You're doling out some pretty badass resources on your Patreon. We're speaking about membership programs here in the intro. Didn't you just release a compost tea recipe? And what else you got going on with the Queen of the Sun membership?
Yeah, I released a bunch of different things on there. I really like to write, so it's been mostly focused on articles and recipes. I just published a foliar feed recipe on there, and so that's available, and I'm working on an article for cover crops that will be published this week, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So I figured it would be a perfect timing to kind of tie that in. I mean, it is the time of the season right now to get your cover crops in the ground.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I'll have to amend that tagline. GrowCast membership and Queen of the Sun membership combo. Best, greatest cultivation memberships out there. I want to talk about this overwintering idea. I'm interested, as far as you said, like the cover crops. I'm interested in what happens to the whole ecosystem, really, as the winter approaches. What happens to the pests and all of that. So what can you share, and where can we begin from this idea of approaching the winter?
Well, if you're growing outdoor and you're growing in a living soil system, which if you're following me or learning from me, you're probably interested in that. The idea of living soil is, capturing as much of the nutrients from your soil food web by having this thriving, biologically diverse ecosystem in the soil. And so if you allow your grow space to lay fallow, which meaning there is nothing growing there, the biological diversity will die off. You want to keep all of those microorganisms happy and doing their thing, cycling nutrients and thriving. So basically, you want to keep something growing in that space all winter long. It can be tough for people who get a bunch of snow, maybe, or it gets really cold, but there are cover crops that will handle under 25 degrees down to 0.
Whoa.
And I really like groworganic.com. That is where I pretty much purchase all of my farming supplies. Really great, local to Grass Valley, California. I'm sure you can find things, listeners, closer to home. And obviously, I support local first, but the website has a ton of resources so that you can explore what kinds of cover crops you might be interested in. They actually have a PDF on there, a whole cover crop section with a PDF that goes through all of the seeds that they provide, and then a little bit of information like if they're low growing up to 1 foot, or if they're between 13 inches to 36 inches, or if they're over 36 inches. And then if they fix nitrogen, if it's good forage or hay, good weed competition, controls erosion, and it goes through a whole list of all of the different reasons why you might want a cover crop.
Damn.
It can help you choose for your location. And you can just use that PDF and then possibly order seeds from somebody closer to you so that you're supporting your local store.
I love it. Give out that URL one more time.
groworganic.com.
groworganic.com. Now, this is for a cover crop and outdoor noob. I mean, not even a noob, just someone who knows nothing about it. And I'm sure some in the audience will appreciate it, but I want to kind of clarify, are you choosing a cover crop and then running it, and then that is your winter cover crop? Or is there an optimal one to use while you're growing and then you plant this one for the winter? Does that question make sense?
Oh, yeah. There's completely different cover crops. I would call a crop that is being grown alongside the cannabis a companion or nursery crop.
Sure.
While an overwinter would be the cover crop, so that you're just keeping your soil rich, living, covered. Literally in the name, you're just covering it so that it isn't going to go barren. Another reason you would want to do a winter cover crop was that it would add organic matter to the soil. Some cover crops will pull insoluble phosphorus out. Some will pull atmospheric nitrogen and put it into the soil. Other cover crops you could be using to reduce compaction or improve drainage. Perhaps this past season you saw that there was some puddling in your aisles or in your greenhouses, or you saw some erosion from watering around your outdoor. This would be the time to fix those things with cover crops. And anytime you have an erosion, from the winter weather, you're losing all of those nutrients that the plant didn't use. So if you fed and you spent a lot of money on amendments or liquid nutrients, fertilizers, they may still be in your soil. The plant didn't use all of them. And if you allow that to just wash away in erosion, then you're just seeing dollar signs disappear.
Yeah, that is a good point. Very good point. Now, something that I've experienced with cover crops, and maybe this was just, easily could be user error, obviously, and it's in an indoor scenario, so that might be different. But one issue that I have observed with cover crops is they're not immune from pests themselves. One of the reasons I ended up going with the soil cover in my indoor grow tent is because when I did do a cover crop, I got pests in my cover crop. Can you talk about kind of which companion plants or cover crops to use to avoid pests or how to deal with that?
Definitely. Basically, when you are growing life, you're inviting life. So you're going to see pests. But if you're outside, you should have a diverse ecological system going and have those predatory insects. And in fact, many cover crops are beneficial insect attractants. So if you're inside and you are seeing pests, well, first of all, how did the pest get in there? And that's probably from introduction from you or a guest or something like that.
Probably a plant that I brought in from outside. It is two different scenarios. You're right. When you're outside, you're just looking to not be the most attractive target, right? And pests kind of move on and they come and go. When you're inside, they can really take hold, I feel. When they find your tent, when they find that little Garden of Eden, they can really get excited about it, I find. But that's a good point. It doesn't, planting a cover crop doesn't just mean that you're suddenly having pests. My issue was I probably already had a little bit of pest in the tent, and they apparently liked the, red clover that I had planted.
Yeah, so exactly. I mean, you were just creating a more thriving ecosystem by adding another plant in there. And so, yeah, the pests are going to thrive because there's nothing else. There's no competition.
It's free real estate. Yeah.
I would definitely. I mean, if you're inside and you want a cover crop, realistically, there isn't a lot of reason for you to have a cover crop inside because you're not worried about the rain washing away your soil. You're not going to really it's not going to be fallow, you're not going to leave how long are your pots going to be empty or your bed?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And if you're doing like a living soil bed, you're right though. If you're in containers indoors, it cuts out a lot of the benefits. You're basically, why I said I opted for a soil cover, you're basically at that point just doing a nice, beautiful soil cover, which is what I wanted. That also cycles nitrogen and stuff. But,
Yeah. I mean, and you could find things like instead of clover, maybe like cowpeas that you could grow as a companion that would be just like a low ground cover. It also fixes nitrogen. It might likes a little bit warmer temperature, and you could have that going with your cannabis at the same time.
Cowpeas, huh?
Yeah, you check those out. Those are warm weather companion crops.
Is that a pea that I can cook up and eat?
I don't think so. I've never let it go to seed because once you let a nitrogen fixing cover crop or companion crop go to seed, you're losing a ton of the nitrogen. All of that nitrogen that the plant was pulling out of the atmosphere is getting stored in the seed. So you really want to cut down your cover crop when you see about 50% of them going into flower. And that will maximize the amount of nitrogen that you are storing in the soil.
Wow, there you go. No, that makes perfect sense. I'd never thought about that, though.
Also, you don't want to forget to buy your inoculant. You should buy a bacterial inoculant to toss the seeds in prior to planting to ensure that you have those specific bacteria, because it's not the plant that is fixing the nitrogen, it is the bacteria that live on the roots. And if you just plant a legume and those bacteria didn't find a way to your root zone and you pull out that plant, you can actually look at the root zone and rip the plant out, look at the roots, and if there aren't any white nodules on those roots.
Oh, say that again. I think is there a difference in your audio? You just got muffled for a second. Look at the roots and what do you look for?
White nodules.
Oh.
And that will tell you that there is the bacteria, the rhizobacteria are living there and in fact fixing nitrogen. If you don't see those nodules, then the bacteria aren't there and your cover crop wasn't really fixing nitrogen.
Interesting. We'll be right back with Alexandria. But before that, the FOOP, everybody. Certified organic cannabis nutrients. Find it at foopcanna.com. And we've got a new promo code. Listeners can now use GrowCast15 for 15% off. That's 15% off just for the next 3 months using code GrowCast15 at foopcanna.com. Again, you've seen the FOOP. They're certified organic, fish waste-based nutrients. But have you seen some of their new products, like their clone gel? Fantastic cloning gel, folks. Contains all sorts of beautiful, thriving microbiology based on the nutrient line. So it's got all sorts of mycorrhiza and aloe extracts added, and along with micro and macronutrients. I'm loving the FOOP clone gel. And I also love that FOOP mist. You know I'm using it. You know I love it. You don't want to be band-aiding your problems with a foliar, but I do like to use a full spectrum kind of FOOP style foliar early. They works really great on seedlings because when their root systems are underdeveloped, for instance, if they sit in an oasis cube a little too long, they really start yellowing to push those roots and really start getting uncomfortable. FOOP mist can really aid with that and speed up the process. It is one of 2 foliar products that I use in my garden personally, and I'm never going back. Try the Foop Mist. You'll be hooked. Switch to the nutrient line if you're looking for something organic, looking for something new. You will not go back. Use code GrowCast15 for 15% off your Foop. All right. Thank you to Foop. And let's get back to it with Alex, Queen of the Sun. Let's get back to overwintering, though. I want to dig down more on this subject.
Yes.
You apply a certain cover crop. You're trying to preserve those microbes over the winter. Like you said, you work so hard to build this living soil, and the last thing you want to do is have the frost get too deep. You know, I think we had the really bad winter, the turbo freeze, they were calling it, and they were saying that it was going to do just that. It was going to, do damage to the soil because it froze so deep. But the soil microbes aren't the only thing that's going to survive the winter, right? There's pests in the soil, larvae in the soil that are capable of overwintering themselves and surviving months and then hatching during the next season?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of caterpillars overwinter in the soil. So they'll lay their eggs and you can get those pests. Even though you didn't see them, you thought you treated them, the eggs will, and then that next spring, even though you don't see any butterflies or anything around, or you could start getting caterpillars again. And so that's something that anything about unless you just go ahead and for caterpillars, which would be root drench of BT, Bacillus thuringiensis, and cover crop act. It's like you're saying, pests, because it's lush, it's life. They want to come hang out, especially when everything else is starting to die off and disappear, and it's all brown and no more green, and you just got this lush little mound of cover crop of, it's going to attract them for sure. So if you have access to chickens, this is my suggestion, let the chickens go wild in your cover crop after they have done their job before you plant your cannabis in there, and that will help eradicate a ton of pests.
Whoa.
This year I had a shitload of roly-polies, and you don't think roly-polies are like a pest, really. That's not something that you think about. Oh, freaking the only land crustacean.
Yeah, we're such a fan of the crab and the lobster, but the roly-polies. My understanding is those roly-polies, and again, I could be wrong, not a problem in small numbers, but if there get to be too many of them, and my understanding is if they get to be hungry enough, they'll start chomping on your plants. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. And if your plants are young enough, then they can just eat every single leaf off of, like, if you're going to just put a tiny clone into a bed that has a bunch of roly-polies, they will go crazy.
Oh.
And I went through because I didn't keep my companion crops going as hard as I had in the past. So before, I had a ton of and cowpeas in there with my cannabis. And so the, roly-polies were used to having that food source. And then once I put in the second crop, I didn't reseed the cover crop because we had a little bit of problems. And so I just let it be a little bit lighter and not inside the beds, instead on the outside of the bed. And the roly-polies went crazy. So chickens love them. And that's a great way to scratch up the soil. Their droppings are like 5% nitrogen. So also going to add more nitrogen in there. Obviously, you don't want to plant like right after you have chickens pooping in your beds, though, because that could burn them. But it's a great solution to composting your cover crop, getting rid of unwanted wintered pests, and giving your chickens food. I mean, who wants to pay for chicken feed all the time?
You got free roly-polies. Yeah, right around the corner. How small do you think of insects a chicken will eat? You know what I mean? I wonder if it'll go down to like a thrip.
No.
If I was a tiny little chickadee, I bet a thrip would be like a fun-sized Snickers.
Well, it eats the plants too, so it'll eat the thrip on the plant.
Right. Okay.
Because I had aphids a bunch. I mean, pretty much everyone around me has aphids nowadays because they're everywhere. And I was just feeding my chickens leaves covered in aphids, and they loved it. They were getting a little extra protein. So in turn, my eggs were higher in protein, feeding me more protein. So I had to like think of the positives of the aphids. Like, okay, circle of life, man.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's special aphid fed chickens. They make the best eggs. Delicious green eggs. Green eggs and ham, baby.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting, releasing the chickens and ducks, though.
Yeah, and ducks will go after slugs. If you have a slug problem in your area, they love slugs. So that's like but just don't put them in with the cannabis. They will eat your cannabis too. Just only plants that you don't mind if they're decimated, because they go crazy.
Oh, man.
That would be like, oh, man, if somebody was like, you said to use chickens and they destroyed my whole garden. Sorry, man.
Oh, all that fire, all those fire packs, and I released a duck because I heard it on a podcast, destroyed my whole garden. Duck hunt, skunk hunt, about to turn into duck hunt in a second. We had the slugs out in Humboldt County. Just kind of, you'd step outside in the misty Humboldt morning. You step out in your bare feet and you just feel something squish under your toe. And those things are terrible. They're such an annoyance. They're such a pest. And I could imagine if they get in your garden, that wouldn't be fun.
Yeah, I don't have them. It's way too dry where I'm at. But I did want to mention another cover crop that is something new I'm doing this year. So gonna be doing like some cereal grains. And these have like nice root systems. So they help with the erosion, and they are really resilient to different weather temperature changes. So you can get like winter wheat, bearded barley, etc. And these I'm like a huge proponent of the enzyme teas and using the sprouted seed teas. So my thought is, okay, I'm going to grow the stuff that I buy for my enzyme teas and just allow them to go to seed, cut them down, and then allow the seeds to germinate, which is what creates the enzyme, and then till it in. Hopefully that will just be like, I don't know, some kind of enzyme tea backwards instead of making a tea. It's just going to be...
It's a back cross.
Yeah. Because the enzymes that are present in these cereal grains break down carbohydrates. And so that's what they're using for, creating alcohol. And that's why you don't want to bubble your enzyme teas longer than like 12 hours, because you can start getting lactic acid and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
But so the thought is I grow the barley instead of buying barley. I mean, I'm still going to buy barley, but let it germinate, let those enzymes just get in there, and then start breaking down more of the carbohydrates, which is just increasing the nutrient cycling and allowing that whole living soil process to accelerate during the winter, even though there's not really a lot going on biologically. Everything kind of slows down in the winter. So we'll be all winter long, helping with erosion, helping create beneficial habitat, and then till it in, or to chop it down, cover it with manure or whatever in the spring, and really harness the power of those enzymes to like jumpstart my nutrient cycling before planting.
Ooh, damn. I love that. So it's, again, taking the idea of the teas, but applying it, the grain teas, but applying it to the cover crop application.
Yep.
Interesting. Very interesting. So barley, you said?
Yeah, barley, rye, winter wheat, corn, but corn doesn't really overwinter. It's just really high in enzymes. Wow. So look and find whatever cereal grain overwinters in your area, and that would be what you would choose. It's not like a specific one. It's, for me, I'm going to go with bearded barley because it does really well in my area. But, like Washington is known for like winter wheat. So possibly, just do a little research. What is good in your garden zone? And there's tons of different cereal grains, and they all have really high enzyme count.
I love it. Sorry, I just lit up a pipe right as you finished your answer there.
I haven't smoked in a while, but that sounds nice. I can taste it.
I was gonna say I'm teasing you now. Oh my God. Speaking of tasting buds, at the time of this recording, which I believe it'll be quite a bit before this episode gets released, But at the time of this recording, I just saw a rough draft for the Sacramento GrowCast travel vlog. That was so much fun. The video turned out great. You were awesome. You brought those fire buds. Those were fucking incredible.
Awesome.
So I just wanted to thank you again here on air. Shout out the NorCal chapter of GrowCast membership. Shout them out on air. And yeah, it's just a ton of fun. That was such a blast.
Yeah.
Queen of the Sun. I cannot express my gratitude and excitement.
We got to do that again. Is that going to be like an annual thing?
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm trying to get out as much as possible. Like I used to travel way more and I'm trying to bump it up again. So I'll be back out to NorCal as soon as possible. And yes, let's definitely do it again.
Cool. That would be rad.
Yeah, you rule. So we appreciate you and we'll be back. NorCal, we will be back.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, those strains that we tried on the vlog, really, really well done. That sun grown that you have, that living soil, outdoor sun grown that you always say can be so high quality, really was. The orange cookies you gave us, the jet fuel, just really, really impressive. And it really just blows out of the water a lot of what we know as outdoor, to be honest. You know what I mean?
Awesome, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm trying to grow outdoor that looks like ends. I mean, it's greenhouse, so we got a little bit of play with the environment to really pamper them a little bit more. Because that's the thing is outdoor just gets hit with the environment, like wind, rain, bugs. But with a little hoop house, you can really, couple fans, just help them out a little bit, get them, where they want to be.
Yeah, I mean, you're literally not going to be able to avoid the elements. You're a victim to the elements if you're the plant. And that was a big thing I realized, when I was talking to chat, like these strains being classified as indoor or outdoor strains. And, the abuse that these outdoor growers have to endure is just not conducive with some of the finicky, mold-prone strains.
Oh, yeah.
Then again, everything I just said, like you grow cookies crosses outside. I know you're in a drier climate than a lot of the growers who end up getting rained on later in the season. But I don't know. Can you comment on that? Like growing those finicky polyhybrid crosses outdoors?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's like not ideal. I think that you should grow what is best for your region, your climate. Know what problems if you're growing outdoor. Know what problems, if you can, do a little investigation of what problems you might encounter. If the humidity is really high, then you want to go with the mold resistant strain. If you have a ton of aphids, I find that the sweeter strains are more attractive. So do something more gassy.
Whoa, I like that.
If you have deer around, don't grow sour diesel, man. The deer love sour diesel.
Is that right? Holy shit! This is some great insight. I love this.
But yeah, I mean, you should really consider growing some OG strains. Some just like, and I don't mean like literally OG. I mean like just old school genetics. Like if you can get Romulan, I grew that outdoors and wow, it turned out amazing. Full season. It just looks beautiful. I can't wait to taste that. It's gonna be good. Speaking of rain though, and have you seen, I shared some stuff on my Instagram story, but NorCal got freaking hit. Like the atmospheric river came through and dumped 10 inches of rain in one day, which is like unheard of.
Wow.
And a lot of my friends were like, oh, no, the storm's coming in and it's okay. The plants can take a little bit. It doesn't rain that much in California at this time of year. So no one was like really expecting 10 inches in one day. And me and my husband made the decision to cut down all of our outdoor before the storms came because it just, sure, some of the strains could have gone a few more weeks, probably at least 2 more weeks on, I know, the lemon meringue we had going, but it looked beautiful and weigh your options, consider the pros and cons. Do you want to harvest early and sure, it's going to be not as heavy. You're not going to get as much of that amber trichome, which correlates with like a heavier high, but it's not going to be molded out. It's not going to be broken off giant
Yeah.
colas on the ground in the mud. And I am so happy we made the decision to cut before the storm because I saw so many people's stories, like just their plants on the ground, 15-foot plants, colas just broken off, getting whipped around. Some places in South County of Nevada County where I'm living, they had like flooding creeks and rivers. And I shared a story that was somebody's like in a canoe paddling through the rows of their weed, and they're harvesting in the canoe, picking, cutting like the tops off, and the plants are just underwater.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Man, that is insane.
So crazy.
So, I mean, in this case, like you said, you made the right call. Do you have any advice to those who are balancing that decision right now? Do I cut early and I make sure that, I get minimal mold and, I don't get hit with this next rain, but my trichomes aren't finished, my plant isn't finished maturing, right? It's those Mean Gene memes that he's always posting. You know what I mean? The moldy bud versus the underripe bud.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any general rules of thumb when it comes to that? Or it sounds like this time you were better safe than sorry. Is that generally the idea? What about a partial harvest?
So the thing with partial harvest is then you're inviting botrytis.
Oh, duh. Okay, see, again, I'm in an indoor situation.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about that. But if it's outdoors and it's raining like crazy already, the partial harvest, you're opening up a bunch of pathways into the plant. I didn't consider that.
Yep. So you got to really consider like everything, all of the factors that you have, and decide, if it's like if you have a really long flowering time sativa, and you want to let it go, it needs like 3+ weeks, like a whole nother month before it's ripened. Then, and your 30-day forecast is showing, it just depends on how much rain you have in that forecast and how sturdy your plant is already, the health of your plant. And then look at it under a microscope. If you even see your trichomes are milky, go ahead. Like, I would say it's better to have it cut and at least have weed than having it just destroyed. I mean, it's like the situation that we were in, I think our plants would have been destroyed. They were not caged really well. Like the trellising was no metal caging. It was just like the plastic trellising. And so that makes a huge difference. Consider how your plant is supported, because I saw some people who had the smaller millimeter plastic trellising versus a larger millimeter plastic trellising, and their smaller trellising, the plants just broke. The trellising broke.
Damn.
And they were just flattened like in the mud. So it's like, okay, well, really, then what are you going to do? Dunk all your nugs and hope?
Bud washing time.
Yeah.
Bud washing time, baby.
Oh, man. So
shout out to the
washers. You have to ask yourself that, ask yourself what it's worth to you and how much time is it going to, how many plants do you have? There's so many different variables, but you just have to be holistic about it, of what your situation is. And if it's a long, like I'm saying, if it's a long flowering time, you've got 3 more weeks, you're not harvesting till the end of November, maybe December, then let it go. If you think that it can handle it. And then if you're out there, go out, put on your plant, man. Show it some love in the storm and see what's happening. And I was really just worried about it, like being like literally just broken because of the wind and, not so much the mold, because if you have a good mold resistant strain, which if you're growing a long flowering outside, hopefully mold resistant strain, because that's always a risk that you're going to run into, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of what I was alluding to before. Again, as an indoor grower, grow whatever I want. Mildew resistance, not really, honestly, not really an issue. You control the humidity. Can I tell you something, Queen of the Sun?
Oh, yeah.
You might not believe me, but 5 years, well, to be honest, I left 5 years after moving to Humboldt. I probably grew for 4.5 years. 4.5 years grown in Humboldt, 16 lighter. However long I've been growing back here in Illinois. I have never had powdery mildew in my garden once. Never seen it on my plants.
Yay!
Know what it looks like.
Congratulations,
I
man.
mean, I'm not. See, now I feel like that's some sort of like humble brag response. That's not what I was going for, Queen of the Sun. I just, it's just one of those things. I think that farmers face different difficulties. And, when I grew back in Humble, I never saw thrip.
Oh.
Then you go to a different location or you grow to a different grow style. I moved back to Illinois. I'm still growing indoors. I learned what thrips were real quickly. Real quickly, I learned. So I think it's just one of those things where, like you said, it's individualized to the grower. You have to think about it holistically. But like other growers are facing challenges that you don't understand and will never face. Like that's just an interesting prospect to me. And we all have to be prepared. Like like you said, we kind of have to do our research and be as prepared as we can. But again, I've never seen powdery mildew in my own garden. How crazy is that? I mean, I see it a lot in chat.
Awesome, man.
I don't know why. I guess I've gotten some other like nasty fungal shit, but I've never gotten powdery mildew on my leaves. I don't know why.
PM is like a really wimpy fungus, and the spores are destroyed in water and a variance in pH. So you probably have good IPM protocols. And well, besides when you brought those plants inside from outside.
We'll move on. We'll move on from my IPM protocols.
Yeah, I've never really struggled with PM too much either. My squash always gets PM, but that's kind of just like something that happens, and I don't really worry about it because it's just on the leaves. And so I did have a little bit of PM this year for the first time. I saw it on the cannabis leaves, which normally it doesn't ever affect, even if the squash is close to it. Because I had some pumpkins growing in my outdoor garden and it got PM, and I was like, I'm not that worried. But then I did get a little bit on the weed leaves, and so I was like, oh, it's going to rain. I'll just wash it away.
Oh, I was just going to say, we talk about the heavy rains, and you're like, oh, worried about botrytis, powdery mildew. That's not thriving after a heavy rain.
I mean, after, sure, but if you have it before, the rain will wash it away. And the water, that is the one fungus that water will just kill the spores instead of transporting them that I know of. It's like when we went over powder mold in Master Gardener's class and training, my teacher started out by saying, powdery mildew is the wimp of all fungus. Don't even worry about it. So
damn.
If you have it, don't worry too much about it. It's not gonna, I mean, unless it gets on your buds. I haven't even actually seen it in person on a bug. I've only seen it a little like patch here or there on a leaf. So like you, I have not had to deal with that. So knock on wood, I'm grateful for that.
I guess it's no brag then.
Yeah.
I feel some people, when they get hit with something like spider mites or apparently powdery mildew, it's like the first time you see that, you're freaking out. You're losing your mind. And then by the time you get hit with worse pests, it's like spider mites you don't even blink. Your heart rate doesn't even increase. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I think it's funny how that works.
For me, I was gardening my whole life and like vegetables and herbs and stuff like a lot longer than I've been growing and cultivating cannabis. And so I had seen like normal part of a vegetable garden, the rosemary really attracts the spider mites. You would see the like stipling on the rosemary, and I'm like, oh, what is that? And I, figured it was spider mites. And then like I said, the powder mold on the squash leaves. And so it wasn't like as scary. But if you haven't been gardening outside and seeing how these, because they're not, to us, they're pests, but really they're just a layer of the food web in a garden ecosystem. Really. So it's just knowing how to manage that and like not getting scared.
I love that sentiment, but I have to push back. Have you seen a spider mite under a microscope? It's definitely one of Satan's creations. There's no doubt in my mind. No, I know exactly what you're saying. I totally know what you're saying. And I think like you're saying, when cannabis is your first introduction to growing, you want to treat that thing just perfect. You don't want your little baby to ever get sick. Whereas if you're a farmer, I mean, farming is so hard. you've understood that from an earlier age. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah, and in the inside versus outside, that's a huge thing. It's like, there's such a big difference. And I've had some folks, reach out, oh, would I benefit from your Patreon if I'm an indoor grower? And I'm like, honestly, no, not really. I mean, maybe, yeah, you'll benefit as a person, but am I going to help your indoor grow? I tell them, go to GrowCast, man. They got
Oh, you're too much. You're too
They've
much.
got all the different growing styles. I really don't care too much to focus on indoor. I'm not growing indoor right now, but drum roll, I am moving to Oklahoma in March, and we've got an indoor there. So
I got the drum roll as fast as I could, but then you said it. You're moving to Oklahoma? Oh my God, that's incredible. We need a standing ovation for that.
Yeah.
Here comes here we go. Yeah. Congratulations, moving to Oklahoma.
Yep.
March, you said?
March, it's looking like. So I'll be back in an indoor setting for a little bit. So I guess I'll probably be writing and talking more about indoor, although I'm going to leave that mostly to my husband because he likes indoor. I mean, there's just something about the sun versus the grow light. It's just kind of depressing.
Queen of the light. Oh my goodness. No, we're going to love it. I'm sure it's going to be regenerative. I'm sure we're going to be seeing living soil beds. I'm sure that's going to be sick for the content creation. And let me return the favor since you send so many people to GrowCast. GrowCast listeners, go and support Queen of the Sun. She's got a Patreon, patreon.com/Queen of the Sun. Google it. Google Queen of the Sun Patreon. It'll come right up. And support her. Even if you're an indoor grower, jump in, support Queen of the Sun as a content creator. And we appreciate all of you members who are part of the GrowCast community, who also support our friends.
Yeah.
The GrowCast family,
yeah.
I would say. So yeah, thank you, Queen of the Sun, for all you do.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Jordan. Seriously, GrowCast has been such a positive influence in my life this last year. And
That's
I
wonderful.
just, the community and the people that I've met online, it's really made a difference in my life. So thank you.
Oh, that's the most wonderful sentiment. And I'll tell you, we're focusing on cannabis education, putting the plant first, getting people growing no matter what the style. And then once we kind of really got in a groove with that, we've now expanded it to community, cultivating the community. And that's really what's going well. And that's where you've been a big help too. So, okay, enough sappiness. The listeners are like, okay.
No.
It's getting sappy over here. We appreciate you listeners though. Seriously, we love all of you.
I want to say a few things before we wrap this up, because I think that, if this is your first year growing outdoor, you may have already harvested. You probably have if you're listening to this. Now is not the time to just relax. I mean, yeah, sure, relax, but think, plan, look back at your season. This is the time to reflect and see what problems did you run into? How can you mitigate them? You've got your cover crop growing. Awesome. So that's going to help with your compaction, your erosion, your biology, your fertilizer, that green manure. But you should order a soil test. This is the time to get your soil tested. Grow Organic. I think that you can do a soil test through them, but also hit up your local agricultural lab. It should be like $30, $20 to get your soil tested. If it does have perlite or vermiculite or anything like that in it, they usually consider that a potting mix, not a true soil. So you'll have to get a different test, which for some reason costs more, probably because I think that it's weed growers and everything gets doubled in price when it's for weed growers.
Yeah, always.
But get these soil tests done and then spend your time, because you're going to get the results and it'll take probably a month. And those results are not just like easy peasy to read. You're going to want to look at things like, oh, my CEC, my cation exchange capacity. Do you even know what that is? Well, if you don't, come on over to my Patreon.
Oh, shit.
We'll talk about it.
There you go. Get the info from the queen herself.
So what I'm saying, though, is just, focus on getting your soil up to par. If you're doing living soil over the winter, figuring out what you need to do, and then make a plan for next year. Time management is huge. I do consulting for commercial growers all over the country, and a big problem, prices are dropping, and so we're seeing an increase in supplies.
Right.
I mean, both back and forth. It's like a horrible feedback loop of increased supply, prices go down, increase supply more because you need to, make your overhead or whatever. So having time management down and planning out, like if you've never done a business plan or never planned out your year, take the time. It will benefit your garden. Know when you need to have your clones cut by or purchased by, how long each strain, what you're going for. If you are outdoor and you're using light deprivation, you can get 3 harvests in if you have proper time management, veg time. Really. And if you're an indoor, when I grew indoor, our goal was 5 harvests a year in that room. And that is making sure you have your dates down and just a plan in place. And so this winter time is that time for you to go through, consider, one thing that I saw with one of my clients was she couldn't get her crop in when she had planned, she had hoped. And so transplanting, think about that. How did your transplanting go? Did you need to put your clones into, like a 4-inch square and then a 1-gallon pot and then put them in your beds? How did that affect your whole timeline through the season? Maybe you could cut out that 1 gallon and just directly transplant from the 4-inch. Or if you're really tight on your schedule, maybe you just plant your clones directly into your bed. There are so many different things you can do also to accelerate the growth of your plants when you're planting them. And so right now, I promise next year will go so much better for you if you just take the time to slowly make a plan and really think about what happened to you this year and how you could improve on it for next.
Love it. You're right. That is so crucial. And I don't know, I'm just kind of like repeatedly laughing because people do after harvest time, indoor or outdoor. I'm sure it's even more so outdoor, full term. I can't even imagine. You have to relax. You have to kick back and you're just like, oh my God. But you're right. The successful growers don't rest on their laurels or their haunches or whatever you rest on. They get started immediately. And like you said, see if you can pull down an extra dep run, next year. That could be a total game changer for your farm. So
yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
I like the consciousness that you're bringing to it. And I like the structure.
I mean, as soon as I get back on the farm, we are making hash. November is a great month for that fresh frozen. Make your hash. I'll do some classes, so stay tuned for that. And then tissue culture cloning. This is a great time to reset your genetics. If you're interested in tissue culture cloning, this December would be an amazing time to get that done, taken care of, so that you can get all clean genetics for next year. And then just keep it going. If you want to be the best grower that you can be, you have to just keep your skills sharp.
Absolutely love it. Another amazing episode. Anything else you have for us today, or does that wrap up the agenda?
That's about it. Yeah.
Amazing as usual. Now I feel the need to play the sound effect again. We've had the soundboard in here for GrowCast TV, but I just use it instinctually on the main podcast. But yeah, you guys got to come check it out. Queen of the Sun's Patreon. Check her out in GrowCast membership. Go back, listen to all the good old episodes. And it'll be a pleasure to continue to collab with the great Queen of the Sun. Thank you for taking the time today, Alex.
Oh, yeah. You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, as always.
Yes, we will see you again soon. And you listeners, we will see you again soon. Queen of the Sun Grown on Instagram. At GrowCast on Instagram. Follow us, get on the list, do all the fun stuff. And stay tuned for more. This is Queen of the Sun herself and me, Jordan River, signing off saying, be safe, everybody, and grow smarter. That's our show for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. As always, Before we wrap it up, I gotta say, AC Infinity, we love them. ACinfinity.com, code GrowCast15 saves you 15% on everything from lights to tents to fans, really the best fans in the game. I mean, I don't talk about it quite as much as I used to because of all their new offerings, but you want to pick up an AC Infinity fan. For one, they're feather light. They're so much easier to hang than some of these bulky ones. They're whisper quiet, super quiet when they run. I like the S series. It comes with a 10-speed fan controller. That's the stupidest version you can find, has a 10-speed fan controller. And now they've got new controllers with their T series, which is much more integratable and controllable. Really loving my AC Infinity fans. Again, they're just superior across the board. Lightweight, whisper quiet, powerful, and smart. Go and get them. I'm staring at my AC Infinity fan right now. And pick up some, scissors or glasses or fabric pots while you're there. They got everything. They even got lights and tents. ACinfinity.com, code GrowCast15 for 15% off. Re-up, folks. Make that garden look sexy again with some brand new AC Infinity gear. I see it all the time in the Discord. Making me jealous. I'm about to set up an AC Infinity tent as we speak. Fun stuff. Thank you, AC Infinity. And thank you, Queen of the Sun. Thank you, members, for being part of membership, especially. And all of you listeners. You mean a lot to me. I love doing this show. I hope you're learning things with each and every episode. And I look forward to delivering you more cultivation knowledge week after week. Best of luck in your gardens, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.